you talk about first of all, thank you for being the first guest on Plus and Pod. We kind of got a couple of branches under this, and really appreciate you joining us. But maybe the first thing I want to ask you is when you talk about growth in music, I feel like you're the epitome of that because you've been going since, I mean, 2013, 2012. I mean, really, you've been in music longer than that, but really, when you hopped on the scene, it was Epoch for me on SoundCloud. And that I felt like in 2014 was a golden era in SoundCloud. And now you're doing a lot more. So just how have you seen yourself grow really in like the last, 6 years? It's been a while.
It has been a while. I'm surprised. Like, well, thank you for even knowing like when I came into the game, because a lot of people have only really just like started listening to my music now, and then probably in the last few years. So it's very few people that like have been listening since 2000 at least, or would be aware of my music. That's as far back as 2012 and 13. How have I grown since? I think other than like the obvious things like working with loads of new like singer songwriters and producers and musicians and having like just leveled up in terms of the sorts of people or the caliber of musicians I'm working with, the levels of projects I get brought onto now and stuff like that. I think just sound wise, I get better with practice. I think that's the one thing when I listen to my music from like 2012 and 13, it's it's sincere still, but I know that now I can communicate myself a lot better. I think I can my ideas, whenever I have an idea, I know how to execute it. So I think I'm at that point now where the growth musically is actually having more freedom creatively. And I think I've always wanted to be in this place where I'm not like the best musician or the best singer, but I really know what I can do, and I can then therefore I can enjoy the process of making music because the frustration is gone, or like, and I'm still like, and I'm enjoying learning because I'm like getting more technical with what I'm doing, and giving myself as much time as possible. And that's the one thing about even this year. It's been, even though it's been crazy and it's been quite disappointing in terms of like the world shut down for a bit, and it's been scary at times. It gave me the time to just hone in on like really what I want to do and what I want to do when we're out of this, when there aren't lockdowns anywhere around the world and people aren't quarantining and people aren't getting sick and stuff like that. It's allowed me to focus on really then what does like my time mean to me, because yeah, if this happens again, no one was prepared for this. I have to think of it like that. What would I do if I can't ever perform again? What will I do if like, I don't know, do you know what I mean? If the worst was to happen, have I been using my time correctly? Have I been in touch with people, even just on a human level? And like, I'm just trying to, I don't know, improve that. So that the growth it's been an emotional and spiritual growth as well, very recently. I hope that answers the question.
No, you know what, you keep going. Like, and for me, like with listening to you talk about just how nobody was really prepared for this. One of the key parts of how you as an independent artist earns profit is, touring and opening up and, headlining shows. None of
Yeah.
that happened in 2020 except for
Yeah.
January and February, really. So now you've taken out a whole summer.
Yeah.
Just how tough has it been trying to stay not relevant, but just stay in the grind of making music, but also seeing the benefits of doing that right now?
It's been, I mean, like I said, right at the beginning of the quarantine, because it was so, when it was so sudden, when the news was suddenly like, yeah, everyone's not going to be able to go anywhere ever again for like, and no one, there wasn't even like a deadline. They didn't say, oh, by September we'll be back to work and stuff like that. So it's just like indefinitely. And the one thing about this year, how it was set up for me, is that I had everything that I was gonna do up until this point had already been in my diary from the year before. So I've been anticipating an amazing year for a long time. But what that also meant is that I was one of the first few people to get like taken off jobs and taken off work and gigs as soon as coronavirus came up. So I feel like I felt almost slighted, even though everyone had the same experience, because people lost their jobs. I can't like people lost their jobs and then therefore they couldn't pay their rent, or like people were ill. I can't say I experienced any of those things, but I just felt like this immediate loss in the beginning because all my flights were cancelled, the headline shows that I had, and even the supporting slots I had for the summer and stuff like that, those all got cancelled so early. Like it was literally as soon as the news knew about coronavirus, all of those things were cancelled. So then financially, that was a huge hit because I'd already, it's like I hadn't spent the money, but in my head, I'd already spent the money because I knew it was coming from like 6 months prior and stuff like that in some cases. So it was just like I said, I hadn't thought 6 months before then, what happens if none of those things happen? Because it looks great when it all seems to be locked in now. It looks like I'm actually 6 months ahead of myself with all of these things planned. But at that point, I'm not thinking, okay, I need security in case none of these things happen, because I'm in a position where at least if one or two of them don't happen, I'm still okay. But everything was cancelled, and everything was cancelled within, I remember it was a space of a week. It was a space of a week. The next like 3-4 months worth of things, plans, even just things that were like still works. Everything was cancelled within a week sort of time. So it was difficult because initially I felt like more alone, because at that point it like friends around me were still just, at least they were getting the news that, oh, maybe they have to just work from home, or they were going to be furloughed, so they were being paid to be at home, whereas it was just like I can't be paid to not perform. Do you know what I mean? Oops, excuse me. So then I felt a bit like, yeah, you just feel hard done by, but then also I felt stupid because I'm like, damn, this is the thing about doing music, is if I worked for an office, if I worked in finance or something, I can just get on a laptop and like work from there. And if anything, I was seeing people still getting jobs because they're working for companies that were just like moving things around. So like they had another option, or the government was there to support them in terms of like the furlough scheme. Whereas I was just like, wow, okay, so everything that I had booked in was wholly dependent on me being able to be places and be in front of people. So I was just thinking, well, it felt like it was a really bad position to be in. But then later on into the like quarantine, later on into the months, what started happening, which was amazing, is a lot of the companies that I was booked to work with, because I do some like production teaching and stuff like that. And then also I get asked to produce music for on a more like corporate level as opposed to like actual releasing stuff. All of those companies were like scrambling to make their stuff work during the quarantine. I'm very lucky that when it came to online classes or like A&R sessions and stuff like that on Zoom calls, they called me to host things like that, and I got asked to produce music for a company called Personas, which is the music production software that I use. So it's just I ended up getting all these like gigs like that. I got synced to a show called I May Destroy You, which is by Kayla Cole. Yeah, amazing.
I heard you in there. I love what HBO does. I heard you in there, and I was like, I stood up on the couch. I was like, wait a minute, is that it was like what? Okay, girl, okay.
So like those were like blessings in disguise, because those every one of those things happened inside of the quarantine. So where I didn't anticipate at all. I had been in touch with companies like Personas on like just about other things, but I never thought that I'd get a gig like that. And like, yeah, so then afterwards it kind of flipped itself on its head, because I lost a few things, but then I gained lots of other really cool stuff. So that's kind of
that's awesome. And you talk about making a show like making I May Destroy You. Is there any other shows that you would just love to hear one of your songs in? Like obviously here in the States, I feel like you are starting to gain this recognition. Like Joe Budden podcast keeps putting you in the sleepers. And that's cool to me because I hear the podcast and I'm getting towards the end. I'm like, oh, what y'all know about that? And it's like, You know, when you see that recognition from, you know, someone from like New York, or, you know, somewhere just random in, you know, the United States, it kind of makes you think just about how big social media has helped you during not only these times, but really just trying to like be able to do things without having to physically come to the States, you know?
Yeah, I think um, my experience of releasing music has always been that it's been received much better on the state in the States actually, which is interesting. But because of the style of music that I do and how my like entry into the music world has been so internet based, R&B music I think resonates, and R&B and soul music resonates so much with an American audience more so than it does even a UK audience, or like a European audience. So that's why with something like I'm Really Sure You've Won, what's interesting about that, it's a British show by with British writers and like obviously, but it's internationalized and it's airing everywhere. In terms of shows that I'd like to see my music on, this is crazy. And I know a lot of people, whenever I say this, people are like, what? I've never actually watched Insecure. I'm probably the only person that hasn't.
I felt like
And
that
I'm
was
like,
number one.
yeah, I'm like, oh snap! I hate even admitting it. I've never watched it. I've been meaning to, but everyone always says to me my music should be there because the playlist apparently is like spot on. And I've seen like people that I know, other like artists that I know, when they post that, oh, their music is featured on an episode of Insecure and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, surely then the soundtrack, it makes sense if my music ends up there. Maybe my karma for not watching it is not having my music on there. So I think I need to start watching it. So then like I'm putting the energy out there. But it shows like that. What's another, or any kind of black show, to be honest, because I think my music more than anything is getting blacker and blacker. Like this year I've just been trying to really like delve into that real soulful music, and then like real authentic R&B sound. And there's, I guess because of how this year has gone as well, with there being like so much there's been a whole move in terms of Black Lives Matter. There's been
Hmm.
a real push in terms of like black content, black representation, just general blackness, that I have a feeling that like, especially in the UK, Black History Month is coming up next month and stuff like that. We're gonna see a surge in black content and excellent black content that I'm like wholly focused on keeping my stuff as black as it's always been and getting even blacker. So I'm just like, when these new shows come out, hopefully my music is being like placed in those right pockets as well. But yeah.
No, absolutely. You know, one of the things that I want to ask everybody is um, for someone that hasn't heard your music, what are two songs in your opinion that somebody needs to hear from you?
Oh, two. Okay. The thing is, like, oh, that's really hard. There's probably like two really obvious ones. I think if anyone has ever heard, if everyone would have heard like just one song by me, it's most likely gonna have been Murder, just because it's the one that I think digitally has performed the best. But I can't say that's the one that like has emotionally resonated with like
Hmm.
people as deeply as maybe Easily I Forget with Alchemist, because when I don't know, I'm not a numbers person or anything like that, but in terms of the
Yeah.
messages that I get back from people, in terms of the songs that have really moved them, of if they've said that they found this song when they're in a dark place or something like that, some of the most moving messages that I've gotten from people have been because they heard Easily I Forget, and the way that they interpreted that, because I wrote it quite vaguely about another experience that I was having, but when you listen to the lyrics, you can kind of interpret it in your own way. And I found that a lot of people did. Like they've come to me about messages with their relationship with their dad or their boyfriend or something like that, and how the lyrics resonated with the situation that they were in. So I think maybe Easily I Forget with Alchemist would be there because of that, and Murder would be the second one, just because it did the rounds. That song is like, and everyone kind of, it's a how do I describe it? Oh, there's a perfect way to describe, and it's just like an easy win sort of song. Like it's an easy sell. if I need to convince you to like my music, I'm gonna give you Murder, because a lot of people like that one. It's not as niche as maybe some of the rest of my music.
It's a bop, simply. I think that's the word you were looking for. It's like it's just one of those
Thank
songs
you.
you really can't deny, and I feel like that's what we here at Plus and Trust are like about, is giving you music that you can't deny. Um, for me, looking at Honeymoon, I felt like that was an undeniable album in the R&B realm in 2019. It's crazy to think it's been out for about a year now. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very
Um, what was that process like for that? Because that felt, I mean, obviously Epoch was intricate, and Honeymoon just had this feel that it was just, I was just walking, alongside you for that whole album. It was a journey, and it really felt intimate to the core. Like that was something that felt like something that you really put everything into. And I want to make it clear to everybody listening to that you produced
Yeah,
that album too.
I did. uh it's interesting with Honeymoon because it is, how do I describe it? It's a cluster of songs that I'd been making over a course of, I mean, something like making and remaking, by the way, over a course of maybe like 4 or 5 years. But some of them were made like right at the end of 2017, and then some they were that they were in their inception in 2000, as early as 2012, sort of thing, in terms of the ideas, and then maybe I redeveloped them later on. But one of it was made in my bedroom. So the thing about Honeymoon is it's me. It's how I sound if I'm locked up in my like own head in a cave, kind of like just not allowing myself to stop, or like sometimes, because what happens with these songs is they go through phases. So it's like the song starts one way and ends a completely different way. It's kind of like Honeymoon was me um putting that habit into play. I have this way of like, I start with an idea and then it never really feels like it's finished, so it keeps changing. And like Honeymoon is essentially that. Even with the lead single was High of This, at least I believe it was. It's like that change in my mind. I'm like, wait, was it? And then I remixed that to make Deluxe, which is the first interlude that plays, and which plays right after it. So it was just like, because I was like, when I was making High of This, I was like, I like this. And I was like, no, it has to be different. It has to be something crazier than this. So then I sampled it, and then I ended up sampling High of This again. No, I sampled Mine, the intro, to make Vitamin C, because I have this like, I feel like there's something, the essence in the songs are right, but then because I'm making it over such a long period of time, I'm listening to what's happening out in the world. I'm discovering songs, or re-falling in love with songs that I want to emulate, and then it makes me change my mind about a song that could have been finished like a year ago. So then I go in because I'm like, the essence was there anyways, but like I've been inspired by something new. So maybe I should just take this song, sample it, and make something new. And that's what happened with Vitamin C. Mine I'd made originally, and it was a lot longer before, in 2012, the original version of it. And Vitamin C I made in, I think, 2016, 2017. I think it was 2017, just sampling it and then playing over it, because I just felt like I needed something that had a bit more of a kind of like that Cuban jazz kind of swing, but still keeping it R&B, as opposed to what mine was, which is kind of like, it was like 2006, 808 sort of R&B, kind of that like Danny E. Kane. That's who was in my mind at the time. That kind of music. So it's been like how do I describe it? Honeymoon was just me over the course of those years ingesting so much music, and then just like non-stop output until I just decided it needs to stop now.
And you just released a new single, and now I feel like I can feel it that you're cooking something up. You've had two EPs drop with the Toronto EPs,
Yeah.
um, her songs, and that was dope collaborations. And I feel like that's stuff that one when we all had to slow down, it gave us more time to say, okay, we can finally get those projects we've been wanting to get done on the side done. But also, it just kind of shows how you built these collaborations. Like you talk about, you're not a numbers person. And I see that because I mean, you're a person that, has been in the game for a while, only, 10,000 followers. Okay, cool. But your credibility and reputation in the industry, I feel like supersedes that. So like for you, like even opening up for someone like Masego when he comes over across the seas, do you feel like that is more valuable in the end goal for you, is having this network and credibility to your name, despite not having maybe the fanfare or the famous behind your artistry?
It's a mix. I don't ever want to compromise the art, and I do understand. I think I've been doing music a long time, enough to know that there's things I could be doing differently to grow up that more, like to grow in fame, and like it would be making music that's a little bit more, yeah, just a bit more accessible, I guess, and following trends a little bit more, perhaps, maybe outputting more, and but I just still want to do what I want to do. And I think if that ever changes, and it might, so I can't say that like I'm just I'm always just gonna be purely happy with the credibility, like you said. But that actually means so much more to me. But there might come a time where I'm just like, actually, I'm making music that I want the masses to hear. And like I do, because I do enjoy that kind of music as well. And I do enjoy making music for things. So I want to make more music that you will hear on TV and on movies and stuff like that, which in turn, the more of that sort of stuff I'll do, the more my popularity will grow, and the more chances of like something sticking with like a big group of people can happen. So if I can strike that balance between still making music that matters to me and is still authentic to me, and then it being accessible to like a mass audience or a more like mainstream like sound or something like that, then that's a bit more of the sweet spot for me. Otherwise, yeah, where I'm going and the direction that I've been heading in, it feels good to me. The
Mhm.
10,000 followers I have on Instagram are real. That's the one thing that like I can say. They're
Talk
not
about it.
uh do you know what I mean? They're not fickle, because the kind of music and the sort of stuff I've been putting out, you have to like music, because I'm not selling anything else but music. So then I kind of like I have comfort in that I have an audience of people that enjoy what I do, and I can be sure of that. And yeah, but
Awesome.
yeah, that's it, I guess.
I feel like, and I feel like that's real. Like it's all, to me, being an independent artist is about being organic. Like you can't fake the funk. Some
Yeah,
do for
yeah,
clout, but that's, I appreciate organicness, if that's even a word. But lastly, I want to ask you about collaborations. Like obviously you collaborate with a bunch of people, great artists. But who is someone that you feel like has just been, like, who is someone that you feel like you want to collab with that it just hasn't lined up yet, or you feel like it's something that's going to come in the future? Timing is everything in music too, but who do you feel like is someone that you just got to work with before it's all said and done?
is this in terms of people that I would say is attainable, or maybe a little bit unattainable, but potentially not
Give
too
me
much?
give me one that's obtainable, and give me one that is, you would say, is like a long shot. Which I don't feel like you have long shots, honestly.
Okay, so in terms of like my dream, I would have to be in the right place, right time, and someone will. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but maybe one day it has to be Pharrell. The Neptunes,
Okay.
Chad, and Pharrell. Because like I even have a new song. I'm working on a new EP right now, and I have a song that like I just went into my Neptunes bag, like literally just produced it sounding like them, hoping that one like enough people will hear it and be like, hey, this kind of sounds like the Neptunes, and keep tagging them in it until they're like, hey, well, she produces and it kind of sounds like us, so we should work together. Hope that's my like, they inspire everything. When I started making music, the Neptune sound was like the whole reason I started producing. Then in terms of, and Missy Elliott as well, I can't say like, but definitely more
Those are
confident.
all. I come from the Virginia Beach area,
Yeah,
so like those are all Virginia Beach legends. So you just name people.
exactly. See, that's it. That's me through and through. That whole like that sound, that legendary, like the uniqueness in it, and how like it was so, I don't know, iconic. That's it. Like the Neptunes and Missy. That's like those are my heroes. In terms of people that I believe I can work with, but it is probably just like almost there. Devin Morrison, I'm like huge fan of him. We're friends, but we haven't got into like that music sweet spot yet. But I guess it's because like we've only ever been in real life together for 1 week, and the internet is not always the best place to start a collaboration. It's like it's when you're in the studio together, then the ideas can flow a little bit more. So maybe when I do get to meet him again, Devin Morrison, Alex Isley. Alex Isley is, I just love absolutely everything Alex does. So I think there's loads, there's too many, but right now in the front of my mind, they're the people that I've been thinking I've been making music specifically so I could like send it to them if they'd be interested in jumping on it.
See, man, that's crazy. It's crazy how it works because those were the two I was thinking, and like obviously Devin and Alex, they've got a single coming out
Yeah.
together.
I'm
Um,
sad that I wasn't asked to be on that, but okay, we can
just,
I can move
just
on.
a tad bit of sodium, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool to hear that. But you talk about people that, and I feel like that's why you guys relate too, because Devin does a lot of it himself. He produces, he
Yeah.
writes,
Yeah.
and obviously fronts some music as well. So it's gonna be dope to see that eventually come to fruition. Lastly, I want to ask you is for someone that is a SoundCloud OG.
Yeah.
You grew up in that class with Jordan Rocky, Tom Mish, Xavier Omar, those guys, and so many more. For you to see some of those, that you saw coming up at the same time as you on SoundCloud, kind of just go into this next level. How confident does that make you in the industry that there is obviously now a new way to be able to do things, to not have to do things traditionally to make noise in the industry?
Makes me very confident. I think that's the one thought that um keeps me going without thinking that someone else has to come in and take me to the next level. A lot of those guys, we were performing together, or we've got like mutuals like Alpha and stuff like that, where we've all been in a studio situation. And like years back, Tom was even in my room, and it was me, him, and Alpha just like jamming and stuff like that. To where now I walk around and I'll see a billboard on like in the central London with Tom's new album, and I'll be like, wow, okay. Do you know what I mean? But it's like it just makes me so confident because I understand wholly everyone's journey, and it's not far fetched. It wasn't that like some big massive corporation came and swooped them out. It was an organic growth for these guys. It was just like consistency in terms of like the music they were putting out. They were outputting so quickly as well, and they were like they were strong in their messaging, in their brands and stuff like that. That like I understand what it takes to get there. And of course, it's about excellent music more than anything. It's not even just it's not strategy. It is about being brilliant, and these guys are brilliant. And like I said, I've just been focusing on making sure that like what I'm doing is that level of brilliance. And like I think that's with practice and like finishing things off at a top level and things like that. So because I understand that, then I'm still on this journey because of that, because I know I know what not end goal is, but I know what my end goal is, and I understand how to get there, and I know what practices like, or what I should be practicing to get there as well. So that's why I'm in the middle of it, even though it's been so many years in. I'm still
Mhm.
like I'm still just at the middle of what I'm planning to do.
No, I feel that. I feel that wholeheartedly. Yo, Em, thank you so much for so much of your time. I really appreciate chopping it up with you. We could go on for hours, but people have things to do in life. So always appreciate you.
Thank you
And
so much for
let
having
me stop.
me.